service chiefs are usually very, very calibrated and careful in what they say, and that is very important as well. But we are delighted to be joined at this moment at the India Today Conclave by someone I regard as one of the sharpest, brightest thinking soldiers of the Indian Armed Forces. Somebody who I think has played a very important role in drawing pressing national attention to the shortage of certain squadrons and fighter jets in the armed forces. This is what in war rooms and in army headquarters or air headquarters gets spoken of. But to draw national attention to a national challenge requires a lot of conviction, it requires courage, and our next guest at the India Today Conclave has shown bucket loads of that. He's also an ace fighter pilot, and therefore he knows how to shoot straight. Ladies and gentlemen, join me in welcoming the Air Chief Marshal AP Singh. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you. And
Thank you very much.
If you speak to his peers and those who've grown up with him in the Air Force and the Army and the Navy, they'll say very rarely do you find an officer as bright as that. So thank you so much, sir. It's a delight to have you with us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sir, you want to...
बकरे को हलाल करने से पहले बहुत कुछ खिलाया जाता है. तो आपके जो वर्ड्स ऑफ प्रेज थोड़े से मेरे को डाउट में डाल रहे हैं.
He's saying, what am I spotting on my radar? I need to look out for this. This seems like an incoming missile. No, it's not. It's genuine praise and appreciation, and just the fact that you've been as candid in what you've said. And you're not thinking of what happens post-retirement, what job do I get, as unfortunately some people tend to do. You've spoken, you've said what needs to be said, and I think that requires respect. You've drawn public attention to a national crisis, and for that, I think we all owe you a lot of respect and regard, frankly.
I would like to clarify here. I think once you reach this position, I don't think anybody is thinking about post-retirement. I don't think so. Because I'm sure when government chooses somebody, they will not choose a person like that who is not doing the job in present. So I think that's
whether it is judges or police officers or people, I wish everybody thought the way you did.
Apex of
Can we have a round of applause for somebody who thinks like that, speaks like that? I think that's worthy of a lot of praise. Got it.
Undoubtedly. So let me start by asking you, sir, and we will come to some of those issues. Look, I want to share with all of our friends, not just an ace fighter pilot, a test pilot, someone who swears by swadeshi. I want to share one story which is huge with all of us who cover the armed forces, is about the Balakot operations that were an absolute game changer when it comes to dealing with Pakistan state-sponsored radical Islamist terror. That was in recent times the biggest achievement of the Air Force, employment of air power to deter terror, crossing the LC, hitting across the international border. It was spectacular. It was spectacular. The next day, when the Pakistanis hit back, again our fighter pilots went in. Wing Co Abhinandan, now Group Captain Abhinandan, was taken prisoner. What I want to ask you is, when you talk about age of acceleration and changing warfare, drawing from that, next time Pakistan tries something stupid, or any other country, hostile country does, do we send in our fighter planes, or is this the time that we move from fighter pilots and fighter jets to unmanned combat aerial vehicles or tandem operations with a loyal wingman?
So I think it's not easy to answer this question. We don't have preconceived ideas about what we are going to do. Yes, we have options available, and it is decided based on what is the threat perception, what kind of defenses we are going to face, what is the outcome that we want. So it will depend on the situation. I don't think we can say that we'll send fighter pilots or fighter jets, or we'll send only unmanned combat vehicles, or only some weapon fired from very long distance. It will depend on the situation, and not only situation. I'm sure Balakot wouldn't have happened if we didn't have the political will. So if the mandate is given, thereafter we have the options, we choose our option out of that, and thereafter the decision is taken. And I think a strong will is what changed us at that time. And I'm happy that the Air Force stood up to that challenge and came out winning.
Sir, in the Middle East war, the Israeli armed forces had overwhelming dominance over the Hamas and the Hezbollah. In the Russia-Ukraine war, again, Ukraine didn't have much of an air force. And therefore, not much happened in the aerial domain apart from the drone warfare that we've seen. But observing from the sidelines, what have you learned from the wars that are taking place at the moment about the signs that you can pick up that you think the Indian Air Force needs to keep in mind as it prepares for the next war?
So I think so there are a lot of lessons which are there to learn and which are being analyzed also already. I think the first thing that we've learned is that we had an idea that the wars are going to be short and swift, which has changed. We need to be prepared for a protracted, long-drawn war. So along with our capability, we need to build our capacity to last that long-drawn war. So we not only have to fill our bins at the moment, we need to have, backup of the industry that when the war starts and it continues, we should be able to continue filling up whatever losses we have. So that is one part. I think second is the primacy of control of the air, which has always been said that it is a prime requirement to have control of the air to do any operations on surface or in air. That has come out very loud and clear there. Whenever they tried, without going in for proper control of the air, there were huge losses. And of course, technology, all these new technologies that we keep talking about, especially unmanned vehicles, that is again, that has come into fore, whether there are pluses and minuses we need to analyze, where there were successes and how much. The technology has grown a lot. We have gone to a wide spectrum from low cost, low speed drones to hypersonics. Everything has been used there. So we need to make sure that we have options available in all, in the entire spectrum of the conflict. And that is what we need to learn from this. So our vision for Air Force that we have given is to have to build it into a multi-domain aerospace power, which is able to take care of our national interests, as well as, it is the credible instrument of choice for our government in case anytime we have, and in the entire spectrum of conflict. That is what we are trying to build into.
So when you look at this entire spectrum of conflict, and when you say Air Force should be the platform of choice for the government, if we were to talk about punishing Pakistan state-sponsored radical Islamist terror, Air Force was the choice to send across a message. Did that point of deterrence work? And that time you didn't have the Rafales, when the Pakistanis sent a very big package the very next day with their AMRAAMs, air-to-air missiles, were our Sukhois capable enough to take them on? In your appreciation, what more do we need, given the kind of spectrum, given the kind of hostile neighbors? The Navy chief said you can't change your neighbors, the Army chief said exactly the same, and we know what both our neighbors are like. What is it that you require, sir?
I think everybody understands you have to fight with the weapon which is better than the enemy in case you want to win. So if we call it stick length, from what distance you can fire your weapon and get a kill. So if they can fire the weapon ahead of me, obviously I cannot reach that point where I can fire my weapon. Our aircraft will be destroyed before that. So with advancement in technology, we need to do this catching up part. So Sukhois did their job, and also, along with that, there are tactics that we have to employ in case we land up in a situation where the enemy aircraft is a higher tech aircraft, if you say. There are tactics employed. You have numbers coming in for a single aircraft or something like that. So there is a mix of both, the technology and tactics. We have to keep studying our adversary, what they have, and keep developing our tactics for that. And of course, keep procuring new technologies.
Are our adversaries, the way they're colluding? Navy chief was talking about how China is giving ships and submarines to Pakistan. There are reports, and how credible are these, that China is actually giving its older 5th generation fighter aircraft to Pakistan as it takes the new ones for itself to checkmate us. Plus, Pakistan is getting money to repair its F-16s. Does that give a terror state an unfair advantage over us in your appreciation?
I really don't know whether we call it unfair or fair, because it is war that they're talking about. So advantage, yes, it will give them an advantage if we don't catch up with that technology. This is in the intelligence domain and open OSINT, I can say, open source intelligence, that yes, there are talks going on of 5th gen aircraft being given to Pakistan. So we need to accelerate and make sure that we are not found wanting. Something like when they got their BVRs, yep. We were that time for some time on the defensive, till we got our BVRs, and now that we had Rafales, we knew that okay, we can take on any kind of BVR. But again, this is actually, it's a cat and mouse game which will keep happening. And maybe if you can anticipate it a little earlier, we can push ourselves to go to that stage before they reach. Nothing like it.
My father used to be an ace military strategist and researcher, so I decided to take some inspiration from him. I didn't have the intellectual framework, so I used artificial intelligence. And I'm going to show you a visualization which I think is important. This project, just so that you understand, this projects into the future if the build-up in the Chinese Air Force and the Pakistani Air Force continues at the rate at which they've announced, and if the Indian Air Force squadron strength, and you would understand this, that, for example, some MiG-21, some MiG-27s, in a few years, these squadrons will be phased out of the Indian Air Force. If no new purchases beyond what we know are announced, and if the depletion continues, remember we are entitled to 42 squadrons, Gaurav?
That's our wish list.
That's the strength we should have.
And
We could potentially, in a worst case scenario, come down to 25 squadrons in 2040, and if the light combat aircraft, which is currently running delayed, but we're trying to get it to work, if that happens, then in 2040 we could have 35. But essentially, the prognosis and the path, and which is what the Air Chief tried to draw the country's attention to, is quite dire. Now, this is the graph that it looks like. And I know that there are sensitivities around what you can and cannot say, so I'll be careful and mindful of that. But my question to you, sir, is this, that virtually every few weeks in the Russia-Ukraine war, we've seen the capabilities and capacities of drones being augmented. New drones are being manufactured while the war is going on. When we decide to buy a legacy weapon system, whether say it's an F-35, more Rafales, or whatever it is that you think is most required, you're looking out 15, 20 years into the future. Given the speed of acceleration of technology, how do we know what we actually want? Because by the time the Boeing or the French actually make it, God alone knows where technology will be at that moment. So how are you looking at this very real challenge?
So firstly, good work done. I think we need to hire you. Will positively. I'll really.
Now
I'm not
returning the praise.
I can't afford to pay you, but I'll hire you, in the name of.
For the armed forces, I'll work for free, so you don't need to pay me at all. I'll come and work for free.
You come and work with us. It's a good analysis you've done. But of course, this is slightly pessimistic view that you've taken.
I said if nothing new gets announced.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. This is the pessimistic view, but it not happen that nothing new will come in. I'm sure, people are working at it that will get new. But the one that, the question that you asked, it's always a challenge. So actually we are chasing technology. What you're saying is that we are chasing technology. We need to reach a stage where we are calling the shots. That means the new technology comes out of India and others are chasing it. So I'm sure we have the brains in India to get into that mode, that we design something. So I was listening to some part of Navy Chief's the talk with you. In that he said that they have a special cell which they have made. Similarly, under the Deputy Chief, which is for procurement, we also have a separate cell which deals with all the MSMEs, new startups, and we take out books of what we need, where are we looking at. So in case they have a technology which can be modified, which can be, merge together technologies which can be merged together to make a system for us. They come out with their ideas and they are supported. They are taken to the flying stations, they are shown operations so that they understand, because half the time they are working in the silos, they don't understand, and they make a product, when it comes out and then we say, no, sorry, it doesn't suit my purpose. So now we are working together with this small industry.
Sir, the American President Donald Trump recently offered India the F-35. I have Gaurav and Shiv are much bigger tech geeks, but I love weapon systems as well. So we did a quick comparison in terms of cost and capability. Do you think that the F-35 platform would be good for the Indian Air Force to induct, or do you think बहुत महंगा है, इतना नहीं चाहिए?
No comments. Actually, we have not looked at it. It cannot be that we just look at something. We are not going to buy some washing machine or a refrigerator for home. That okay, ये नहीं तो ये खरीद लेते हैं, इसमें अच्छा लग रहा है, इसका looks अच्छे. So we have to analyze an aircraft fully. What are the requirements and what comes along with it. Obviously, cost is a part of it. We can't just say that 10 F-35s is good enough or whatever. So we have not given it a thought. There's no offer which has been made. At the moment, I have not even. There is a study which is which has just been completed by a committee which was set up, Defense Secretary, under the chairmanship of Defense Secretary. So we have to analyze that study, and then we need to make a roadmap, where we don't land up in that dip what we talked about.
But when you talk about that roadmap, and let me try and understand. So we've been in this situation even in the past. When Pakistan got its F-16s, Indian Air Force, and you fly the MiG-29. So that's when India quickly got the MiG-29s, and then they got the Mirages, and those Mirages again were used in Balakot. Are we in a similar situation? That once again Pakistan may get the FGFAs or the 5th generation fighter aircraft. They got the BVR, and for the benefit of some of our viewers, they got the beyond visual range missiles. So are we in a situation once again that if they get the FGFAs, we would need an interim measure once again?
Maybe, yes. Maybe it will happen like that. We may have to go in for something which is maybe off-the-shelf purchase, maybe something make in India while we are developing our own AMCA. So our 5th generation aircraft is being developed. We cannot have that project just shelved and just go and buy something from outside. But maybe there will be a decision to buy something from outside which is with some indigenous content which is progressively increasing. Maybe having them to collaborate with us to develop our AMCA at a faster pace. So all options will remain open as of now. We need to take a call on, as a nation, we have to take a call what we want.
Sir, the Chinese Air Force has been talking about a 6th generation fighter aircraft. And everyone's wondering, sach bol rahe hain ki aise bol rahe hain? Like, do they have the capability to deliver on the promise that they've made? And the Indian Air Force is currently, at the top 4th or 4.5. We missed out so far. That just shows how shockingly late we are, which for a government and a nation that says we want to put national security first is just very, very irksome, and you deal with it. We just look at it from the outside, but it's very problematic. How do you look at this? A, do you think that those 6th generation fighter aircraft that they're talking about is for real, or are they just exaggerating? And this fact that we're on 4th generation and there's a full gap in the middle, 1 generation fighters we don't have. You've spoken about it, but what are you telling your forces? Because ultimately, we saw with Balakot and with, Uri, Pathankot, if something has to happen, it has to happen. We have to be prepared.
So Chinese have 6th generation fighter, if we call that 6th generation. There are doubts about it, what generation it is and what all capabilities it has. Just having an airframe flying is not good enough. It has to have the capability and it has to be operationalized. We have 6th generation aircrew. So we can take care of that part, in 4.5 gen aircraft. That's what I said, that sometimes there will be a situation when your technology is not at par with the technology of the adversary. Then you need to devise your tactics accordingly.
But can I press you? And I'm just curious to you saying device.
See, at the moment, 2 of you are pouncing on me together. So obviously, something like that. I'm on the defensive as of now.
No,
so we can put Chinese on the defensive
pilot,
like that.
No matter what he makes you no matter what he says and makes you feel, a fighter pilot is always the sharpest shooter. There's no way he's on the defensive. He's just getting set. When he launches his missile, everybody gets knocked out. That's the reality. We are not
मेरा ना
delusional.
गला सूख सा रहा है
सब पानी पिलाते हैं आपको.
नहीं बैठाते देखिए आप लोगों को देख के so you can imagine क्या हाल हो रहा है मेरा.
You're just being modest, and that is absolutely not the truth. So yeah, we don't buy that just for even half a second.
आप कुछ बोल रहे थे सॉरी मैं भूल गया.
You disarmed the missile. So the incoming missile has been defanged and disarmed.
वो बेसिकली आपने लेजर फायर किया इनकमिंग हाइपरसोनिक पर और वो गई.
This is a good technology. We need to buy that.
But I use, and I ask this with all sincerity. In the Second World War, in the First World War, tactics had a very important role to play. But given the advancements in technology and the fact that you now have technology of a kind which in previous air warfare wasn't available, is the significance of some of those tactics just lesser just because of overwhelming technological superiority, which you can be a supremely talented fighter pilot, right? But if the guy on the other side is not as talented, but he has a superior weapon system, then what role, you keep talking of tactics, what role frankly, what chance frankly does tactics have?
We get this feeling now that technology is growing at a very, very fast pace. Actually, technology is following an exponential curve. Wherever you're sitting, whether it was in 1940s, whether it was in 60s, whether it was in 80s, whether it is now, wherever you're sitting, when you look back, it's a shallow curve. When you look forward, it's a very steep curve. And any exponential curve, you see. So that feeling will always live, that technology is developing very fast. We need to catch up. How will we catch up? But the fact is, in World War I, you said that tactics made a difference, the pilots made a difference. In World War II also they made a difference. Obviously, in that gap of 30 years, they made a difference. So something like that will happen. Yes, you can't say that other guy has got a gun, you got a chaku, and you go and fight and you will win. You may win in one day, you may lose other day. But you need to have a gun of somewhere similar capability. Then only you will win. And then thereafter it is the way you take an aim, the way you hide your approach or whatever. So all these tactics which came out, guerrilla tactics and hiding yourself, attacking in smaller numbers and all those, were developed actually to cater for a larger force with better weapons, with smaller force. But we've seen those also taking, getting the results. So at all times, our thinking has to continue. And that confidence has to remain. It cannot be, you can't be overconfident, but you have to be confident. If I go into war underconfident, then obviously I'm not going to win at all. Because I'm convinced I'm not going to win. So it is not that. So we need to make sure we have to fight with whatever we have. We have to be I'd say, to be future ready, we have to be now ready also. You can't go that I'll become future ready, but now I'm nowhere near that. So, means, you may have new aircraft coming in, you may have certain shortages, you may have certain delays. Yes, you do your bit to push those things. I'm not saying that and I think you said also, you've been saying this all. So that is to make sure that people realize that they have to work faster. They can't be just, saying ki ho jayega, but hua nahi, which is not okay. But at the same time, it doesn't happen overnight. Production capabilities also will build up over a period of time, but we have to start. We have to start working towards that. And similarly, till we reach there where we want to reach, as far as technology is concerned, we have to be innovative. We have to use whatever technology we have in a manner that will give us success. We have to train ourselves in a manner that, when we go into war, we are not trying it for the first time or then thinking on the run, then on the fly, you can say, and then saying, okay, kaam ho gaya. It may happen, it may not happen. But if you've trained, it will happen. And that is where our effort towards training people in a realistic environment is very important. We have been pushing ourselves to train something called, we have that integrated training areas which have been earmarked where we can use our electronic warfare openly because there are no, the emission policies are relaxed because we are in the middle of India. and number of aircraft which are simulated, number of weapons, even the enemy weapons are simulated, those ranges are simulated. And you have to develop your tactics, develop your strategies to take care of the situation. So that has been happening. A lot of emphasis has been given on simulators, and that is our future also. So this is one push that I am giving, that simulators have to be used. You know, we've been using too many hours on the aircraft.
So, and maybe you can call Gaurav and me to play on the simulators.
It's not playing. And that's not joystick. That's a control column.
We can come and give it a shot. It'll be really nice to
Yeah,
come.
I think that is one thing you must do.
Yes, please.
Wherever you people, whenever you go to an Air Force station, if there's a simulator, must go and see how realistic it has become these
So
days.
can we use the Conclave opportunity for you to invite us to come and have a go at a simulator at one of the Air Force
I'll
stations?
invite
We'd
you
love to come.
separately.
I'm
There
sure
are too
most
many people
sitting
here.
Many of them
We'll
will
run
be
out
very-
of simulator hours if I have to invite everybody else.
So, sir, you've been a very strong votary of swadeshi in aircraft. How are we progressing there? What more needs to be done so that everybody, you know, that it's a national effort. It's an Air Force effort. It has to be a DRDO, HAL, ADA. Everybody's on the same page to deliver. How does that happen in terms of one, the Kaveri engine? Where are we there? That our own fighter jet engine. What else needs to be done in your view?
I think I've been saying this. We need to accelerate the process. Our processes are a little slow, and we need to be, ready for failures. In R&D, if you're not ready for failures, you will never succeed in time. You know, you have to be ready for failures. You try. Everybody has said that failure is a step to success. Yeah. So you try something. You're not succeeding in that. Change your track quickly.
So after the comments you made, do you think Hindustan Aeronautics has tried to change what they're doing, or are we going to, a few years later, 2 or 3 air chiefs later, will they still be saying the same thing?
Comments means this one, what you're showing. This is somebody, this is ridiculous actually.
Ridiculous.
Yeah, because as a correspondent, would you like it that somebody is sneaking into what you're talking privately? I think it is wrong. Tomorrow, somebody, somewhere it goes out that, बाहर तो ये एयर चीफ बनता है, घर में जाके देखो इसका क्या हाल है. ऐसा तो नहीं होना चाहिए ना. So I was talking to my colleagues from HAL, which was, we have trained together, like they were.
But as a फौजी बच्चा, I think आपने सही किया सर.
No, सही किया मतलब, what my intentions were to get to their conscious कि भाई तुम यहाँ बैठे हुए हो, you have to push yourself to reach there, because you can't be just saying this. No, but the point is, it is the way it came out was not right, I think. Air chief raps HAL, that I have nobody to do that. No, I don't have the right. I've been saying this every time. If I point a finger at somebody else, somebody else's domain, you think as HAL officials, they don't want to succeed? They would love to, yeah.
No, but I think what it does, and I think
that's... Okay. So I've been saying this, that if I point a finger at somebody, 3 are pointing towards me. And have we not made a mistake? We have also made mistakes. Have we not changed some, requirements? I'm sure we have changed requirements. But why? Because it took so long that the requirements changed. So that will happen. But the whole idea is that this was a friendly talk with test crew and engineers whom I've worked with. I've taken some names also. And I don't know, that person has got the voice so clear from so far. You can see the zoom in, zoom out, how far the person is standing. You guys have got some good technology, I must say. Some of you guys.
Dual use technology. Friendly fire. No, but what I think, and which is why I saluted you, what that did is it drew national attention to what was earlier a strategic or military concern. Suddenly everyone's trying, and I think that really shakes, because ultimately netas are accountable and responsible when voters start asking them these questions.
You must have everything you need, because we don't want our pilots to be flying MiG-21s in today's day and age, when you should be flying the 5th generation aircraft or talking about the next generation aircraft. So the nation has to deliver.
No,
is the only point that
you don't need things like this for that to happen. Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. This is one thing which I've been saying. I think we have year of reforms. Yes. In defense ministry this year. There should be a year of positivity in media. Okay. When we only give positive news and there'll be no negative news.
We have the good news today.
Oh.
We have good news today, and it's doing extremely well, and it gives out the good news of the day.
Yes, because you try it out for 1 year, maybe you will still succeed and earn that much, mileage. So
Sir, but our
the
effort
nation
is,
will change. Yeah.
like you, our effort is nation building. We really want a very strong nation that will deter any adversary. कोई आँख उठा के ना दिख सके
No, but at the
हमारे
same
ऊपर. That's our
time,
effort.
at the same time, our adversaries come to know exactly what is happening in this nation and what is happening wrong. They don't have to do any intelligence gathering. It is all open source information that they gather, and they know
Ladies and
exactly where we stand.
I don't know whether the non-military people sitting here and watching picked up some of the nuance, but what we've seen over the past half hour is one of the sharpest expositions of where we are at and where we need to be. He didn't fire missiles straight up, but he's given adequate indications of what the challenges are, what needs to be done immediately for the Indian armed forces to be prepared. And as Gaurav said, and I agree with that wholeheartedly, you would never want a situation where your men in those cockpits or on the frontiers are not fighting with the latest and the best equipment. Because as you said, a gun can take on a gun, a chaku cannot take on a gun. I mean, the chances of chaku taking on a gun, are not very high successfully. I think, as I said at the beginning, for the candid nature in which you've spoken and for everything that you've said and drawn national public attention to one of the most pressing challenges our services face, I think all of us sitting here owe you a lot of gratitude and applause. Thank you so much,
Thank
Chief
you.
Marshal,
Thank you
for
very
joining
much.
us. And we are coming for that simulator. I know simulator hours, but aapne invite kar diya. We'll find some way of getting there.